Morning, according to the practice, I will brief you on the major economic indexes and then take your questions. In November, the national economic performance is steady. Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with the Commander Xi Jinping and its call, all regions and departments strictly implemented the decision of the arrangements made by the CPC Central Committee, and the State Council adhered to the principle of pursuing progress while ensuring stability, fully and faithfully applied to the new development philosophy on all fronts, accelerated the efforts to create a new pattern of development. The combined effects of macro policy continued to manifest. Industrial and service sectors witnessed rapid growth. Employment prices were generally stable. Social expectations were boosted, and new quality product forces grew steadily. The national economy has sustained the recovery momentum since September. First, another good harvest of grain was witnessed, with the output reaching new heights. The total grain output in 2024 was 1,413 billion jin, an increase of 22.18 billion jin over the past of last year, up by 1.6%, reaching a new height of 1.4 trillion jin. Among that, the output of autumn grain totaled 1,056.9 billion jin, up by 1.4%. The output of cereal was 1,304.6 billion jin, an increase of 21.71 billion jin, up by 1.7%. The sown area of grain increased by 1.79 billion mu, an increase of
394.7公斤每亩，增加5.1公斤每亩，增长1.3%。二，工业增长加快，装备制造业和高技术制造业较快增长。11月份全国规模以上工业增加值同比增长5.4%，比上月加快0.1个百分点，环比增长0.46%。分三大门类看，采矿业增加值同比增长4.2%，制造业增长6%，电力、热力、燃气及水的生产和供应业增长1.6%，装备制造业增加值同比增长7.6%。比上月加快1个百分点，高技术制造业增加值增长7.8%，快于全部规模。
And high-tech manufacturing increased by 7.8%, 2.4 percentage points faster. Analysis of types of ownership showed the value added of state-holding enterprises was up by 3.9%, shareholding enterprises up by 6.0%, enterprises from Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, and foreign investors was up by 3.4%. In terms of product, the production of new energy vehicles, industrial robots, and integrated circuits grew by 51.1%, 29.3%, and 8.7%. From the first 11 months, the total value added of industrial enterprises went by 5.8%. In November, the manufacturing purchase PMI stood at 50.3%. And the production and operation expectation index was 54.7%, up by 0.7 percentage points. In the first 10 months, the total profits made by industrial enterprises were 5,868 billion yuan, down by 4.3%. Third, service sector grew fast and modern services developed well. In November, the index of service production grew by 6.1%. Specifically, the index of services production of information, transmission, software, and information technology services grew by 9.3%, 9.3%, and 8.8% year-on-year, and faster with 3.2 percentage points and 2.7 percentage points. In real estate, transport, storage, and postal services, the number grew by 2.9% and 6.0% respectively, 2.1 percentage points and 1.3 percentage points faster. In the first 11 months, the index of service production increased by 5.1%. In the first 10 months, the business revenue of service enterprises went by 7.4%. In November, the business activity index for services was 50.1%, the same level as the previous month. The business activity expectation index for service was 57.3%. Specifically, the business activity index for industry like telecommunications, broadcast television, and satellite transmission, internet, software, and information technology, they maintained at the high expansion rate of 55% and above. Fourth, market sales continued to increase, and the trading goods showed good sales. In November, the total retail sales of consumer goods reached 4,376.3 billion yuan, up by 1.16% month-on-month. The retail sales of consumer goods in urban areas reached 3,759.6 billion yuan, up by 2.9% year-on-year. In rural areas, the number reached 616.7 billion yuan, up by 3.2%. The retail sales of goods were 3,796.1 billion yuan, up by 2.8%. The income of catering was 580.2 billion yuan, up by 4%. The effects of trading of consumer goods continue to manifest, with the retail sales of household appliances and audiovisual equipment, furniture, and decoration materials grow by 22.2%, 10.5%, 6.6%, and 2.9% respectively. The total retail sales of consumer goods in the first 11 months reached 44,272.3 billion yuan, up by 3.5% year-on-year. The online retail sales reached 14,030.8 billion yuan, up by 7.4%. The online sales of physical goods were 11,805.9 billion yuan, accounting for 26.7% of total retail sales of consumer goods. In the first 11 months, the retail sales of services grew by 6.4%. Fifth, investment in fixed assets increased steadily, and investment in manufacturing and high-tech industries grew fast. In the first 11 months, the investment in fixed assets reached 46,583.9 billion yuan, up by 3.3%. The investment in fixed assets was up by 7.4%. Specifically, the investment in infrastructure grew by 4.2%, that in manufacturing grew by 9.3%. In real estate development, the decline was 10.4%. The floor area of newly built commercial buildings sold was 861.18 million square meters, down by 14.3% year-on-year. A decline narrowed by 1.45 percentage points. The total sale of newly built commercial buildings were 8,512.5 billion yuan, a decline narrowed by 1.7 percentage points. By industry, the investment in the primary industry up by 2.4%, the secondary industry up by 12%, and the tertiary industry down by 1%. The private investment declined by 0.4% year-on-year. The investment in high-tech industries grew by 8.8%, of which the investment in high-tech manufacturing and high-tech services grew by 8.2% and 10.2% respectively. The investment in manufacturing of aerospace vehicles and equipment and in manufacturing of electronic and communication equipment grew by 35.4% and 8.8%. In terms of high-tech services, the investment in professional technical services and in e-commerce services grew by 27.9% and 12.5%. In November, the investment in fixed assets increased by 0.1% month-on-month. Sixth, imports and exports of goods maintained growth, and the trade structure continued to optimize. In November, the total value of imports and exports of goods was 3,750.6 billion yuan. The value of exports was 2,221.7 billion yuan, and the value of imports was 1,528.9 billion yuan. In the first 11 months, the total value of imports and exports of goods was 39,786.1 billion yuan. The total value of exports was 23,038.3 billion yuan. In the first 11 months, the imports and exports of general trade went by 3.7%. The imports and exports by private enterprises went by 8.7%. The exports of mechanical and electrical products went by 8.4%, accounting for 59.5% of the total value of exports. Seventh, employment was generally stable and the urban surveyed unemployment rate maintained the same level as the previous month. The urban surveyed unemployment rate averaged 5.1% in November in the first 11 months. In November, the urban surveyed unemployment rate was 5.0%, the same as the previous month. The surveyed unemployment rate of population with local household registration was 5.2%, while with non-local household registration was 4.6%. The urban surveyed unemployment rate in 31 major cities was 5.0%, and the employees of enterprises worked 48.9 hours per week on average. Eighth, consumer price increased slightly year-on-year, and the decline of producer prices for industrial products narrowed. In November, the CPI went by 0.2%, down by 0.6% month-on-month. Prices for food, tobacco, and alcohol was up by 0.9%, clothing up by 1.1%, housing down by 0.1%. Articles and services for daily use down by 0.3%, transportation and communication down by 3.6%. Education, culture, and recreation up by 1.0%, medical services and healthcare up by 1.1%, and other articles and services up by 5.2%. Among the prices for food, tobacco, and alcohol, the prices for grain went down by 1.1%. Fresh vegetables up by 10% and pork up by 13.7%. The core CPI, excluding the prices for food and energy, was up by 0.3% year-on-year, 0.1 percentage points higher. In the first 11 months, the CPI went up by 0.3% year-on-year. In November, the producer prices for industrial products went down by 2.5% year-on-year. A decline narrowed by 0.4 percentage points, or up by 0.1% month-on-month. The PPI went down by 2.5% year-on-year, a decline narrowed by 0.2 percentage points. In the first 11 months, the producer prices for industrial products and the purchasing prices for industrial producers dropped by 2.1% and 2.2%. Generally speaking, as the existing and incremental policies continue to take combined effects in November, the national economy was generally stable with a steady progress accumulating more positive changes. However, we should also be aware that the external environment is increasingly complicated, demand is insufficient at home, some companies encounter difficulties in production and operation, the foundation needs to be further consolidated. At the next stage, we must follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with the Chinese characteristic for the new era, fully implement the spirit of Central Economic Work Conference, fully and faithfully apply the new development philosophy on all fronts, accelerate the efforts to create a new pattern of development, and solidly advance high-quality development, further deepen reform comprehensively, promote high-standard opening up, expand domestic demand, stabilize expectations, and boost vitality, so as to promote sustained economic recovery and growth, and ensure the successful achievement of major annual targets of economic and social development. Thank you. Now the floor is open for questions. Please identify your affiliation before taking questions. What do you think of the economic performance in November? In general, what are the highlights and positive changes in economic operation in November?
Thank you for your question. Thanks to the package of our macro policies, in November, we saw rapid growth of production, expanding domestic demand, stable employment and prices, active stock and exchange market, improving expectations, and steady growth of new quality productive forces. The economy has sustained a momentum of recovery since September. featuring rising production, increasing demand, stable employment, warm market, and better quality. As for rising production, we can see that the industries and services maintained a upward momentum. In industrial-wise, thanks to our policies of trade-in and equipment manufacturing renovation, we saw that in November, the large-size industrial value added went up by 5.4%, 0.1 percentage point higher than last month. Manufacturing of equipment value added up by 7.6%, 1 percentage point higher than last month, accounting for nearly 50% to the total value added of the industry. As for the services industry, thanks to faster logistics and our policies to bolster the capital market and stabilizing the real estate market, the services industry has sustained a momentum of recovery. In November, the services PPI went up by 6.1%, though slower than last month, but maintained above the 6% level, which is the second highest growth in this year. The real estate industry and the logistics and post industries PPI went up by 2.1 percentage point and 1.3 percentage point higher than last month. Second is rising demand. Although the November 11th online sale was launched ahead, the total sales of November saw a slower growth compared with previous years. Yet, the November sales is still faster than the average level of the first 3 quarters. So the growth momentum remains. Thanks to the trade-in policies, relevant products have saw rapid growth of sales. In November, the household electronics and the radio and the television, as well as furniture, saw a retail sale of double-digit growth. As for investment, although real estate investment still is in decline, yet thanks to our recent policies, the investment has maintained generally stable in recent months. From January to November, the fixed asset investment went up by 3.3% year-on-year, maintaining stable for 4 months, and manufacturing investment up by 9.3%, significantly higher than the overall investment. As for what I mean by stable employment, thanks to our policies to support employment, the urban employment remains generally stable, which also improved the employment of key group of areas. The surveyed unemployment rate in urban areas of November was 5%, the same level as last month and a rather low level in this year. And the surveyed unemployment rate for rural households in urban areas went down by 0.3 percentage points compared with last month. And also we can see a warmer market. The prices is a very important factor in judging the performance of the market. In November, the consumer prices went up by 0.2 percentage point year-on-year, but the core CPI has grown by 0.3%, 0.1 percentage point higher than last month, which is a growth of 2 months consecutively. At the same time, the output price in November saw a narrowing decline, which also shows a positive change in the supply and demand of industrial products. As for expectations, the real estate market is seeing rising sales and the stock market is rather active. PMI continued to improve and the market expectation also improves, creating good conditions for the recovery of the economy. And fourthly is better quality. All localities and departments have strengthened their efforts to boost innovation, develop the digital economy, and accelerate green transition. We see some very positive growth and progress. From January to November, the high-tech manufacturing value added went up by 9%, significantly higher than the overall growth, and the high-tech investment up by 8.8%. Also, the digital economy sees good growth. Thanks to our efforts, we see very good growth of digital products production and digital services. In November, the integrated circuit manufacturing value added up by 20.7%. The software and IT services PPI up by 9.3%, a rather good growth. And green transition is going on. With our efforts in developing the new energy, our competitiveness in green products has continued to improve. In November, the new energy cars and photovoltaic battery output went up by 51.1% and 10.9%, a very good highlight in green transition. So generally speaking, we see recovering of the growth, we see more stabilizing factors and good momentum and many good positive factors. Yet the external environment is more complex and uncertain. Effective demand within the country is still lackluster, and we still need to face some pressure in some industries. So we will continue to implement the Central Economic Work Conference policies, continue to implement a more proactive macro policy, expand domestic demand, strengthen the high-tech industry, and effectively guarantee people's livelihood. Next question. We see that the package of incremental policy has been put in place for a while, so please evaluate the performance of those policies, and did these policies meet the expectations? Yes, people are following closely the performance of these policies, and based on the effective implementation of existing policies, we launched a series of incremental policies at faster pace, and these policies has boosted domestic demand and market confidence. Since October, major economic indicators see recovery. The new productive forces continue to expand, and high-quality development is making progress. So we can see that both the existing and incremental policies have played important roles in boosting the recovery of the economy. First, these policies boosted consumption. The trade-in policy continued to deliver its benefits. The sales of household appliances, furniture, and cars maintained rapid growth. The household electronics and television, furniture, and cars saw retail sale of 22.2%, 10.5%, and 6.6% of growth. These have boosted the overall retail sales, and they have become important driving forces for the growth of consumption. And second is its efforts on investment. Thanks to major projects, construction, and large equipment renovation, investment in key areas and equipment renovation maintained rapid growth, sustaining the expansion of investment and the momentum of the economy. From January to November, the investment in water conservancy management increased by 40.9%, power and heat production and supply up by 29.6%, manufacturing equipment manufacturing investment up by 15.8%. Its contribution to the overall investment is 65.3%, a very important pillar in expanding investments. And third is its efforts on its impact on production. Those policies also boosted the production of investment and consumer goods. In November, the manufacturing of equipment value added up by 7.6% year on year. as I mentioned, they contributed nearly 50% of the overall value added of the industry. And in November, the output of cars went up by 15.2%, and the output of air conditioning material equipment and television realized double-digit growth. And fourth is more active market. Thanks to our policies in October, the stock market and the housing market see improvement significantly. And in November, positive factors continue to accumulate. The market is still very active, is maintained active. And the sold floor area and sales values of new built commercial buildings maintained a positive growth. And the stock turnover and value of the Shenzhen and Shanghai stock exchanges went up by 1.1-fold. And the five is stabilizing expectations. These policies also created good expectations, thus creating good conditions for improving the economy. The manufacturing PMI has been under the threshold for many months, yet in September the PMI has get back to the positive territory, and in November we can see that the operation inspection index went up by 0.7 percentage point compared with last month, showing a stronger confidence by the business to the market. And in the implementation of those policies, we strengthened the weak links and focused on improving people's livelihood, creating good conditions for this healthy growth of the economy. Looking ahead, we will continue to implement existing and incremental policies, and they will continue to deliver their influence. At the same time, given the complex external environment, we need to strengthen the internal driving forces for the economy. We will continue to fully implement relevant policies to improve the economy, the structure, and the quality. Thank you. Red Star News. Please share your perspective on the housing market in November. How's the impact of the incremental policy? And please share with us some data.
Thank you. Real estate is related to people's livelihood, but also to economic development. It attracted a lot of attention. Faced with the new changes of the real estate market, in September, the Political Bureau meeting strengthened to promote the real estate market, stop decline, and many departments introduced different policies in finance and etc. and cancelled limitation on purchasing sales prices, reduced interest rates, down payment ratio, and release demand potential, reduced the cost of purchasing housing. All these have made remarkable achievements. In October, the market has manifested positive changes, and in November, the trade volume in real estate market is more active. Market expectation is improved, and we are moving toward a more stabilized situation. First, market trade is more active. With the support of policy, the threshold of purchasing housing is reduced. The burden of purchasing house is reduced too, and the people's demand for housing is released. Since October, the trade volume in real estate market is recovered. In November, the newly built commercial house building trails has been further improved. In the first 11 months, the sales floor areas and the volumes, the decline was narrowed by 1.5% and 1.7%, among which, in November, the floor areas and the floor volume realized positive growth. From the 40 key cities, for the first 11 months, the newly built commercial building floor areas and the sales volume has declined. The decline was narrowed by 1.8% and 2.1%. And in November, the number was up by 10.2% and 6.8%. Second, there are more positive factors and changes. With the effect of different policies, the trade became more active and the price was stabilized. In November, among 70 major and middle cities, the price of increasing in comparison with the previous last month was 10 cities, and the 2 cities witnessed increase of second-hand house. In major cities, the price of newly built housing prices stayed flat, while the decline in second-tier and third-tier cities was narrowed by 0.4% and 0.2%. In terms of second-hand housing, the price in major first-tier city was up by 1.4%, while in terms of second-tier and third-tier, the decline was narrowed by 0.2% and 0.1%. Third, market expectation continued to improve. Now we have more and better expectation on market. According to the PMI survey, the real estate market expectation index was up by 1.1%. In November, in certain real estate developers and institutions in 70 major and middle cities, 68.5% and 57.1% surveyed employees believe that the price will maintain stable. So generally speaking, with the effect of different policies, the real estate market maintained positive in November, and the market confidence has been vigorated. The driving forces have been further strengthened, and the long-term trend will be continued to improve. Next stage, we should earnestly implement the deployment of parties' central committee and the state council, have a better understanding on the change of the real estate market supply and demand relations, to optimize the current stock and improve quality, improve a housing mechanism, to speed up the building of new model of real estate development, to better meet people's demand, and to promote a steady and healthy development of the real estate market. Now we have Double 11 festival and the renewal subsidies, and you mentioned that the consumption. Can you brief us on the performance of consumption in November? Thank you for your question. As we said before, due to the earlier of Double 11 online festival, certain commodities trail was attributed to the October, and in November the trade growth was declined. But if we look at the number in October and November, the growth rate is better than Q3, and the momentum of market sale recovery remains unchanged. At the same time, service retail sales maintained a rapid growth, which demonstrated expanding consumption demand. First, market retails recovered overall. In November, the consumer goods retail sales increased by 3.0%, and the decline was narrowed due to the factors of Double 11 festival online shopping. But if you look at number in October and November together, the growth rate was accelerated by 1.2%, which means there are since Q4, the market retail was recovered. Second, policy effect continued to manifest. Though the growth rate of trade volume was slowed down, however, due to the trading in consumer goods supported, like in the areas of vehicles, home appliances and furniture, the home appliances, audio, and TV products, vehicles, and furniture, their growth rate were 22.2%, 6.6%, and 10.5%, and they continue to become an important force for driving the growth of market retails. Third, real estate market products have witnessed a rising trade volume. sales volume. Currently, the real estate market sales was improved, driving the expanding demand of housing and decoration. Decoration and infrastructure products, their price has increased by 2.9%. Fourth, service retails maintained a rapid growth. With the support of policy, people's consumer and service consumption demand continued to be released, supporting the relative development of service retail. The catering industry and consumption continued to speed up, and the catering industry income increased by 4%, 0.8% up in comparison with the last month. In the first 10 months, the service retail sales increased by 6.4%, 3.2% faster than the commodity retail sales, among which transportation, telecommunication, and other service trade volumes maintained a double-digit growth. So generally speaking, from Q4, the market sales maintained a recovery overall, and the policy have manifested its effect, but at the same time, we should say that the driving force is to continue to be strengthened. And next stage, we should positively stabilize employment, improve people's income, enhance their consumer capacity, and encourage them to consume, to spend money, and improve the quality of supply to better release the consumption of consumer and promote a steady and healthy development of economy.
Next question.
Thank you for your question. Price is a major index. For China, among CPI, food prices occupies a major ratio and will have a big impact on the CPI change. To observe the demand and supply change, we should not only focus on the change of CPI, but also we should focus on the change of core CPI. So in terms of November, because the CPI was affected by the food price, the CPI decline was widened. But if we look at the core CPI, then the expansion range was widened, which demonstrated the continued improvement in market supply and demand relations. Therefore, we should look at this issue from different perspectives. In November, the CPI was decreased by 0.6% month-on-month. It is mainly because the high temperature in November and the cold front process was less. They are conducive to the production and storage and transportation of fresh food, and reduced the price of food and the consumer consumption price. In November, the food prices increased by 2.7%, and the decline was widened by 1.5%, among which fresh vegetables, pork, fresh fruits, and aquatic products reduced among the range of 13.2% to 1.3%, and occupying for 80% of the reason of the decline of CPI. In November, the CPI increased by 0.2% year-on-year, narrowed by 0.1% of expansion. And the price of food is also one of the major factors. In November, the food prices increased by 1.0%, down by 1.9% month-on-month, among which vegetables and pork prices also declined, but prices for fresh fruits decreased. If you look at the change of price, we can see the CPI growth rate was declined. This is contributed to the turbulence of food and energy price, and other prices of commodities and services maintained overall stability. So the effect of our policies, now we have signals to improve the demand and supply chain of the market, which was demonstrated by the core CPI. The core CPI increased by 0.3% in November. At the same time, certain service industries' price, they have a wider expansion. In November, the service price was increased by 0.4%, and entertainment price was up by 1%, 0.2% wider in comparison with the last month. In generally speaking, the CPI was generally stable, and with the new positive change, certain prices will be recovered. Next stage, our food production will yield harvest, and the industrial consumption have abundant supply. The supply in service industry is generally stable, and the CPI will be more likely to improve in the next future, in the next period.
Next question. Daily economic news. In November, the PPI has seen a narrowing decline, and what are the factors behind, and what's your forecast on PPI growth in the future?
Thank you for your question. In November, with the combination effect of existing policy and incremental policy, the market demand is improved, and all this is conducive to the recovery and improvement of production forces. In November, the PPI was increased by 0.1%, among which raw materials price was improved, like cement manufacturing and glass manufacturing. The price was up by 6.2% and 1.8%. Ferrous metal and non-ferrous metal refinery industries price were up by 1.2% and 0.2%. If we look at the number in terms of the same period in comparison with the last year, the PPI decreased by 2.5%, narrowed by 0.4%, among which material prices was decreased by 2.9%. Among major industries, petrol, refinery, communicating, electronics and mechanics, the decline was narrowed, while ferrous refinery price has witnessed a widening increase. But we should also see that the international crude oil price decline has a negative impact on our domestic industry. In November, the oil exploration, organic chemical materials, the prices were down by 1.4%. At the same time, because of the advancement of industry technology, the prices were also declined. The price for new energy vehicles in November was decreased by 0.8% in comparison with the last month. So generally speaking, though we have some external factors and domestic factors, but with the effect of macro policy, the demand and supply situation was improved, and the price has stopped declining and recovered. And this is conducive to the operation, to improve the operation of companies. Next stage, we should continue to fully leverage the role of these policies, expand domestic demand, to produce the dynamic balance between production and demand, to improve their operation and development confidence, and promote healthy and stable development of our economy.
Next question. "21st Century Economic News. In November, the industrial data has seen a good increase. And what are the factors? And can we sustain this growth momentum of industries? And the PMI has been at the expansion territory for a second consecutive month, and what's the factors behind that? Thank you for your question. The industrial output has been a highlight since this year, and we can see a rather rapid growth. Thanks to our macro policies, in November, the industrial increase maintained a good recovery, and the manufacturing increase is rather fast, with expanding new productive forces. Market expectation improved and playing an important supporting role to the economy. In November, the industrial value added went up by 5.4% year-on-year, 0.1 percentage point higher, and the manufacturing industry value added up by 6%, 0.6 percentage point higher than last month. And the export has played an important role in boosting industrial output. In November, the turnout of export went up by 7.54% year-on-year, 3.7 percentage point higher than last month. And second is improvement in upgrading. Thanks to our policies to boost high-end manufacturing and large-scale equipment manufacturing. In November, the manufacturing of equipment and high-tech manufacturing value added went up by 7.6% and 7.8%, significantly higher than the overall growth of the large-scale industry. And in November, the car manufacturing industry, telecommunication, and computer manufacturing and other electronics manufacturing saw a growth of 12% and 9.3%. And the high added value products also see rather fast output. In November, the integrated circuit and industrial robot output increased by 8.7% and 29.3%. And third is continued improvement in green transition and smart transition. Thanks to our policy to boost these industries, we see rapid growth in this area. In November, the smart UAV manufacturing and smart carbon equipment manufacturing value added went up by 60.6% and 13.9%. New energy car output and PV battery output went up by 51.1% and 10.9%. And all these factors has led to improvement of business expectations. Thanks to the effect of our macro policy, the market demand improved. The PMI since September has saw recovery. In November, the PMI was 50.3%, 0.2 percentage point higher than last month, a growth of 3 months consecutively, and it has been above the expansion threshold for 2 months. And the operation expectation index of manufacturing producers went up by 0.7 percentage point higher, showing a stronger confidence by the market. So in November, the industrial output maintained steady recovery, the structure improved, high-end, smart, and green transition continued to go deeper. Market expectation improved, yet some companies still faces lack of demand, rising competition, and failing profit. So they still face some pressure. So we will continue to implement relevant supporting policies, expand domestic demand, improve our production capacity, and boost innovation to support high-quality growth of the industry. Reuters. From the data of the first 11 months, can we meet the target set for this year? And also, please give us an outlook on the economy of 2025 and how to more effectively boost domestic demand and consumption to offshore the external shocks. Thanks for your question. Yes, I believe many are following closely whether we can meet the goal set for this year. Given the complicated external environment and the slowing growth, overall speaking, of this whole world, we can see that the domestic economy also faces more difficulties. Facing this complicated situation, the Central Committee has made well-informed decisions to beef up counter-cyclical adjustment. After the September 26th Central Meeting of the Political Bureau, a package of incremental policies was introduced, and major economic indicators has recovered since the fourth quarter. The confidence has been bolstered, and we believe we can meet the targets set for this year. First is improving economic operations. Despite some temporary factors that we saw a decline of certain indicators in November, but from the general situation of the fourth quarter, we believe that it is a better performance compared with the third quarter. And if we combine the data of October and November, we can see that the large-size industrial value added, the service PPI, and total retail sale went up by 0.4 percentage point, 1.4 percentage point, and 1.2 percentage point higher than the third quarter. And in November, the manufacturing value added went up by 6%, and the services industry, housing industry, and the transportation industry grow faster by 2.1 percentage point and 1.3 percentage point higher than last month. And second is greater effect of the macro policy. A package of incremental policy has delivered very good effect. We can see that in October, the trade-in policy has supported relevant products, and they maintained rapid growth. And thanks to our policy to support major projects and large-scale equipment renovation, the equipment manufacturing, material manufacturing industries see an increase of growth, as well as infrastructure investment in water, electricity, heat also maintained growth. And the third is stable growth of new quality productive forces. As we are in a critical stage of transformation and upgrading, localities and departments have stepped up efforts in boosting innovation. So we can see that the manufacturing of new energy cars and integrated circuit maintained faster growth and played an important role in sustaining the economy. In November, the manufacturing of integrated circuit value added went up by over 20%, and that of the new energy cars went up by over 50%. And digital empowered manufacturing also boosted the growth of the new industries. In November, UAV manufacturing and smart car manufacturing maintained double-digit growth. And fourth is improvement in market expectations. Thanks to our policies, the market demand has improved. The stock and housing market is more active. In November, the sold floor area and value of newly built commercial housing maintained positive growth, and the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock exchanges saw rising turnover and value. And in November, the manufacturing PMI has stayed at the expansion area, and the expectations of the manufacturing and service activities maintained growth. All these positive changes will help to boost consumption and investment, and thus the economy. Despite all these difficulties and challenges, the fact that we have a good economic fundamentals, many advantages, great resilience, great potential, and a strong sustaining forces for long-term growth remain unchanged. And thanks to our well-informed policies, we believe we will be able to meet the major economic indicators target we set for this year. And looking ahead, in the next year, we will face more uncertainties. Rising protectionism will drag on the recovery of the world economy, and the geopolitical factors may have unforeseen influence on the energy prices and other prices. So we still need to improve our transformation, diffuse risks and challenges, and improve people's income. So facing those complex, difficult factors, the Central Work Conference has laid out the plan for next year. And these are the guidelines we need to follow for the next year. Looking ahead, we will fully implement the spirits and decisions of the Central Work Conference on the economy. We will continue to boost the recovery of the economy and lay the foundation for meeting our 14th five-year plan. Last question. In 2024, the grain output continued to increase. Please share us the reason and the data.
Thank you for your question. This year, we yield another harvest. This year, it is a hard-won achievement. And the output was 14,000 billion jin and maintained a 1.3 trillion jin for 9 years consecutively. And for the first time, it climbed the new level of 1.4 trillion jin. There are three factors. First, the support of our policy. The central government attaches great importance to agriculture and introduced many favorable policies, continue to improve the wheat and rice purchasing price, stabilize the subsidies and other subsidies, expand different insurance and cover insurance to more farmers, and improve the stabilizing price mechanism, take different actions to improve their in 2024, the area of soil of grain reached 1.79 billion mu. Second, we have introduced different strategies. We continue to construct our soil area and improve their output per unit. And by different technology appliance, we improved the output in per unit. Besides, the climate is favorable to the grain production. So in 2024, the output of grain per unit was 394.7 kilograms per mu, an increase by 1.3%. Third,
and we also step up the responsibilities of various levels. All localities has worked hard to deliver their policies and made progress in boosting grain output. In 2024, 26 out of the 33 provinces saw an increase of grain output, which shows that all localities has stepped up to their responsibilities. So despite some serious natural disasters in certain areas, but thanks to the overall efforts of the whole nation, we believe that we will be able to hit another warm bumper harvest this year, and this will lay a good foundation for boosting the rural economy. And thank you for all the questions, and I would like to thank our guest for sharing with us all this information, and thank you.
live over.